these are some barriers that affect participation in sport. So there are psychological and physical reasons that people can help and can't. So physical reasons such as injuries, you can't do sport when you're injured. So these are obviously some of the barriers that affect the participation in sport. Whereas psychological reasons include fear of failing, lack of motivation, and money comes into it as well. If people can't afford to participate in clubs, then they won't. In addition, these factors also decide whether someone will or will not take part in physical activity. So what I meant by education is the lack of education to the benefits that sport can have on a person's health. So people might not be aware of the benefits that exercise has, but also, like before, personal factors come within this. So friends and family might not do exercise, therefore you might not want to do exercise on your own. The health belief model. This model is split into 4 sections. So the first one is perceived susceptibility. This is the person's assessment of the likelihood of them getting an illness. So the likelihood of them thinking that they will get an illness. So some people choose to ignore advice or say stuff like, I won't get that illness, it won't happen to me. And so they choose to ignore the advice given by professionals. An example of this would be smokers. They know that smoking can cause lung cancer, but some of them say, I won't get lung cancer, so it's fine. So this is perceived susceptibility. Next, we have perceived severity. This is how severe they think the illness is. So this is the person's view on how severely they would be impacted if they were to be affected by a condition. Then we have perceived benefits. This is the belief in how effective the advice, medicine, or action will be in resolving the problems of the condition that is considered to be severe. So this is how likely you are to listen to medical advice and believe in the advice that has been given to you. Then finally, the last part of the model is perceived barriers. This is the person's perceptions of the difficulties they would encounter in taking the proposal actions, so maybe doing exercise or listening to advice, quitting smoking, for example. But this includes both physical and psychological barriers. We conducted a survey where we asked 4 different people about participation in sport and sports in general. So relating this model to the survey, we asked people about the perceived severity of heart disease and if they were given advice to do exercise to potentially cure the heart disease, would they listen? The answers of the severity of the heart disease ranged between 7 to 10, so 10 being really severe and 1 being not so severe. So the answers range between 7 and 10. However, 100% of the people that took part in the survey said that they would listen to the advice given and do some form of exercise because they believed that it would help them get better. Relating the perceived barriers of the model to the survey, 3 out of 4 people said that it was most likely psychological barriers, such as embarrassment, lack of motivation, of why people didn't do exercise. The next theory is the theory of planned behaviour. So this starts with 3 subsections, so attitude, subjective norm, perceived behaviour control. And whatever the answers to these 3 subsections decides the intention you have to change your behaviour. So obviously, first of all, attitude. So this is just about what you think about starting exercise. Do you think you'll enjoy it? are you willing to do it? You can't be bothered, and things like that. Subjective norm is about, is it normal to take part in this particular sport? So like, is it socially acceptable? Like, do a lot of people take part in this sport? So the sport is not uncommon. Next, perceived behavior control. This is how easy or hard it is to take part in the sport. So it all depends on the individual's ability to whether they find the activity easy or difficult. So, for example, for me, I would find participating in a netball match or training session relatively easy because I have some competence in netball. Whereas if I was to go to a football training session, I would be very out of place and wouldn't know what to do because I don't have the ability to successfully take part in football. So all three subsections must be in place so that you're more likely to change your behaviour. You have more intention of changing your behaviour. If there is any issue with any of the components, then there may be less intent to change your behaviour. So from the survey, we asked the people, firstly, what their attitude towards exercise was. And the answers were mixed. So 75% of the people we asked said it was good for them, they enjoyed it, but the others said that they couldn't be bothered and weren't motivated. We also asked whether friends and family would support them during a new form of exercise. They didn't require high levels of ability, and everyone said yes. So it was socially accepted by friends and family because they would support them during this new form of exercise. Even though the exercise is socially accepted and they didn't need much ability, because one factor wasn't in place and their attitude for this one individual, their intentions changed, meaning that they didn't change their behaviour, so they don't do any exercise. The next model is the trans-theoretical model. So this is also split into 6 sections. So firstly, pre-contemplating. So this is when maybe an individual decides not to take part in physical activity. The next stage is contemplating. So they appreciate that change is needed, but they don't do anything about it. Next is preparation. So this is where an individual takes steps to improve their health, so sets a plan. So this might be going to the gym or starting a new club or something like that. Next is action. So this is actually physically doing things to improve aspects of your health. So now you've planned going to the gym, you actually go to the gym and work out. The next stage is maintenance. So their behaviour has changed, but they need to share their improvements and feelings with others, or they might relapse. So they need to let their friends and family know that they're going to the gym and they're doing well. Otherwise, they might become demotivated and stop going. So this leads on to the next point, which is termination. So this is where they completely give up on the activity and stop it. We asked the people that were taking part in the survey whether they would be interested in trying a new form of fitness or exercise, and if they were to set themselves a goal, would they maintain it? So the results were that 50% of the people would consider it and 50% said yes. So the people that said they would consider are contemplating, but not necessarily doing anything about it. However, for the people that are currently doing exercise weekly, we asked them if they were to set themselves with a goal, would they maintain it? And 75% said no and 25% said yes. So this correlates with how many people have quit exercise in the weeks of 0 to 6. as 75% of people said that they had quit between the weeks of 0 to 6. But that one person that hadn't quit exercise and has maintained it, so therefore they have followed the trans-theoretical model to the maintenance part, whereas the others are the termination stage.